Andrew, Ryan, Greg, and Danny, who's not here, we did the Buddha. Once upon a time in a land far, 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 far away called Asia, there was a town named Kapilavastu. A king and queen ruled, and one day in 563 BCE, they had a son, and they named him Sid. Sid the Kid was brought to a mysterious fortune teller, who told Sid he would either be a great king or a great holy man. Sid the Kid's daddy was King Sud, and his mommy's name was Queen Maya. Sid the Kid received his daddy's last name, Gautama. According to legend, Sid the Kid was born while his mother was walking in a garden under a full moon. Sid the Kid's birthday today is called Vesak. Sid the Kid's mommy, Queen Maya, went to heaven a few days after he was born. His aunt, Maha, acted as his mommy for Maya while she was away. King Sud was very protective of Sid the Kid, and wouldn't let him go outside the very big castle. King Sud was worried that Sid the Kid would see that people had colds and became old and lame, and aren't princes like him. Sid the Kid married a beautiful princess named Yaso, and they had a baby boy named Rahula the Rascal. Sadly, Sid the Kid wasn't happy with his life, because he did not think it was enough. One day, Sid the Kid went outside to play, and met many strange people along the way. He met old grandmas and grandpas, a person with a cold, and other people who have gone to heaven. Sid the Kid was very upset, and had many questions, so he left his family and went to find answers to his questions, and he pinky promised that he would be back. Sid the Kid wanted to become really, really smart, so he went to school and listened to famous teachers who told him their answers to his questions. Sid the Kid, however, still wasn't happy, and he didn't believe his teachers, so he kept looking. Sid the Kid made a few buddies, and they lived together, but didn't have a lot of food or a house. Sid the Kid figured out that in order to become really, really smart, he shouldn't have many things, but he also shouldn't have nothing, so he can remain big and strong. One day, Sid the Kid was sitting under a tree with his buddies. He wanted to sit and watch people, so his buddies got bored and left to go play. He sat under the tree for 4 days, and after that he suddenly was really, really, really smart. Sid the Kid was now no kid. He was Sid the Buddha. Sid the Buddha now knew why people got colds, why people went to heaven, and why people became old and lame. He also knew why people are not always happy, and came up with an idea that people could play so that they can always be happy. He called this idea Buddhism. Sid the Kid decided to teach people his idea, and he walked the lands even more far away, and he made many buddies. Keeping his promise, Sid the Buddha, went home with all of his buddies, and everyone in the family joined in his idea except for his daddy, King Sud. Many months later, right before King Sud went to heaven, Sid the Buddha taught him the idea, and he thought it was fun. After King Sud went to heaven, Sid the Buddha had a surprise. He too was going to heaven. Sid the Buddha was now old and lame, and he had been a teacher for a very, very, very long time. One night after dinner in 483 BCE, the Buddha went to sleep and went to heaven. His buddies have continued to teach the idea ever since.
So, Sid had a lot of cool ideas about the world, and there are so many that you can only do a few in the time we have. Well, first off, you're in a pattern that goes on forever, repeating over and over. When you go to heaven, you come back as someone new, depending on how nice you were to others. You were actually someone else before you were born. This is called samsara, or the wheel of rebirth. But Sid thought that this pattern wasn't very fun, and it was like math class. So he wanted to find a way to go to recess instead, which is called nirvana. So he found a few ways that you could go to recess and stay there forever. Sid thought that if we were really nice and we didn't do mean things or hurt other people, you could get closer to that door to go to the playground. So he thought that once we had been nice enough and done all our work through meditation, we could go outside and stay there as long as we wanted. He had a really easy way to determine if you were being nice and not mean. And that was, as long as you didn't intentionally hurt anyone, including yourself, that was okay. That meant not overdoing anything, like hogging the swings or eating too much at lunch so that your stomach would hurt. But since a lot of people would obviously have trouble with this, he left a few rules to help us guide ourselves towards that path. Sid said that there were 8 things we could do to make sure what we were doing was good. The first 2 were right view and right intention, which he believed spoke to the concept of wisdom. The next was right speech, right action, and right livelihood, which he called conduct, or actions. Next, we have right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, which he called concentration. This was the Noble Eightfold Path, and Sid said that if we did these 8 steps, we could go to recess faster than anyone else, as well as becoming a better person.
Alright, Sid believed that material things such as your toys are evil. You shouldn't have too many toys. And Sid said instead of having all the toys, you should focus more on your spirit and who you are and becoming a better person. Sid gives us 5 things that we cannot do, which are killing, stealing, lying, drinking, bad drinks, and hitting. These are called the 5 precepts. Sid knew that we needed money to live, and he gives us the right ways to make money. Sid tells us that we all want stuff because we aren't really smart. Buddha says that humans are meant to have hard times, but it is possible to change our lives. To make your life better, you use the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path.
This is Andy's stuff, but without reform. Do you want to do that?
I'll do it. So Sid lived as his first 29 years as a shielded and unburdened prince, being protected by his daddy against the world. When he first began to see the bad things of life, such as getting old, going to heaven, and getting a cold, he suddenly had a revelation or epiphany that he wanted to discover how someone should live their life. So he went on an exciting adventure in order to figure out how man could attain enlightenment, which basically means that he knows a lot of cool stuff. In searching for how to attain enlightenment, Sid recalled a moment in his childhood where he meditated really hard called the jhana. He then realized that this state was the path to nirvana, or recess. At the same time, he discovered that living off of now worldly possessions was too hard and would distract him from this. He discovered that the path man must take in their life is called what Buddhists call today the middle way. The middle way is like cutting a slice of pizza in half. You don't get the extreme crust on the side, just simply the cheese. Buddhists always teach moderation, teachings that if were followed, they could greatly benefit our country and world in this postmodern era. However, most people in the world don't like Sid's ideas. Many of us are greedy, which means that they only want money and materials. Only 3 to 4 million people out of 300 million people in the United States today are followers of Sid. Buddhism revolves around saying no to temptations. That means when your mom offers you a lollipop, you say, "No, Mom, I have no need for that sugary delight." Instead, you pick up a simple piece of bread to eat. Temptation is very strong in our world today because everyone is seemingly after the big payout. People don't aspire for smaller-sized houses and the lack of giant, unnecessary, and expensive things. Now they want to watch shows like MTV Cribs and have a massive house. Some celebrity pops up, and we say to ourselves, "That's what I want." So when the chance comes to gain a little extra money, people take it.
Nirvana is heaven on earth. Every single day as you live, you become smarter and smarter because you learn from your actions. Then we use what we learn to make sense of things, like Sid and Buddha did. The types of actions that we do every day are mental, verbal, and bodily. Mental is when you use your brain to try to figure something out. Verbal is talking to one another, and bodily is what you do every day with your physical body. Buddhist logic. Buddhists believed in the Four Noble Truths. The first one is life means suffering, which means people are not perfect, and people get hurt, sick, and go to heaven. You can never live forever. The origin of suffering is attachment, which means you suffer when you really want a toy, but you cannot have it. The cessation of suffering is attainable. You want to get rid of all your worries, so you are stress-free, and you can do whatever you want. The path to cessation of suffering. This path will help you end your suffering, and the Buddha talks about the Noble Eightfold Path. They also believe in karma, which is when you do something mean to someone, or when you do something, an action will happen in your future that is based on what happened to you before. It can be either good or bad.
Amen.